Hello YouTube, this is XOR Hacks. Today I will be doing Bashed, which is an easy rated Linux box on HackTheBox and is also part of the OSCP like boxes list by TJNull and TCM, the cyber mentor. The box already hosts a pen testing tool which we will use for getting the initial foothold and abuse our write access on a file which is run by a process owned by root to become root ourselves. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's begin with the basic nmap port scan. Nmap is C for default scripts, SV for version enumeration, ON for a normal output, and I'll save it in a directory called nmap and name it bashed. Here is the IP address and tag VV for a verbose output. And the first port we get is port 80, which is a web server, so let's actually visit it. We find a web page telling us about PHP Bash. PHP Bash helps a lot with pen testing. I have tested it on multiple different servers and it was very useful. Actually, I actually developed it on this exact server. So let's visit this link and we see something like a web. There's some screenshots over here that tells us that it's some kind of a web console. As it is a web server, let's run GoBuster. Our nmap scan is also finished and we can see that only one port was found and the title of the website which we just saw. So let's start a directory brute force on the URL and let's delete this part. Word list. .threads and the output will be named gobuster.txt. And in one of the screenshots we see another path that is upload/phpbash.php. Let's actually try visiting that path. Uploads, a typo, and this actually is a directory but we don't really find anything on here, at least not that we can see. So let's do php bash.php and that does not exist over here. It does seem that this is some kind of a screenshot from a test server and the IP address is also different, so safe bet to say that this is not a current thing. Let's check out our GoBuster scan. We find uploads which we already checked, images, PHP, CSS and dev and JS and fonts. Out of all of these, dev seems to be quite interesting, which is something we rarely see. So let's go and visit dev. Here in dev we can see two directories and two files. One of them is actually phpbash.php. So let's check it out. And well, it does seem to be a web-based CLI tools. Let's do who am I. We can see that we are data and also here and here. Usually when I find a web-based CLI console, I try to get a shell using that because this is not really as comfortable to use for me. So let's just look at PHP was shell. So let's copy this one to our current location and vim. Here we can see that whoever authored this has added these two comments over here to tell us to change these. We need to edit out the IP address. Well, 1010. Well, I'm not sure what my IP address is. Here we are. It's 1010.14.15. Let's go here. 1010.14.15 and let's close it. Let the port be 1234. So now let's go here and we can further enumerate on this web shell and we can see that actually let's go back and see, can we navigate? Yes, we can, and the present work directory changed. Over here we can see that we find the paths our GoBuster is looking for. We can actually now kill the GoBuster because these are the ones that it will actually find. So it's kind of useless now. Let's go to uploads. CD uploads, and there is index.html. Very often whenever we find access to a web server, the best bet is to go for the uploads folder. Usually in other folders you might not have write access, but in uploads you very frequently do. So that's usually what I aim for. So let's set up a Python server. On 1337. I'm actually going to name the PHP reverse shell, rename it to something easier. Let's say rev.php, and let's do wget http 10 10 14 15 and on 1337, and I'll do it's rev.php, and it was saved over here. Let's do ls to confirm, and it is there. We can actually see over here that a request was made by the target to our Python server, and it was able to download it. So there are two ways to actually trigger this reverse shell, but first let's set up a listener. So one of the ways is I can go to uploads. I won't see the file over here for some reason, and just type rev.php, and as you can see here we have a shell, but an easier method to actually do that, as we already know the path it is being uploaded to, we can just use curl and the same path, http the target's IP, uploads, and rev, and I get a shell again as www.data. Now another way to actually get a reverse shell, if you're not able to upload a PHP file to the target, if you don't have write access on any of the directories, would be using something like, well, shells. You can go to Pentest Monkey and see the reverse shell cheat sheet. Let's see if we actually have Python on this client. Which Python? Well, we do have Python, so I'll copy this. I wanted copy, and I got it. And we can open Sublime. Usually I would choose any text editor, because before I paste this into the terminal or any kind of process I'm going through, I'll just paste it in my Sublime Text or Nano or Vim. So we do need to give it some information like our IP address and the port. So I'll just give it 10 14 and 15. Let 1234 be the port, and as it is running Python taxi over here, we don't need to do much. I'll just copy it, and let's kill the shell again and set up the listener. Now when I do paste it, it just pushes the page to the right. So let's just press enter. Did we get a shell? No, we got something like a syntax error. Did I mess something up over here? And not really sure. let's check it out. This seemed to be a syntax error, and this, let's go back and open it up again. Often it can be quite annoying to figure out the error like this, and yeah, I probably did miss this double quotes, come to think of it. And now let's copy it. I'll paste it over here and press enter. We don't seem to be getting an error, so let's check our terminal. Yes, we do get a response back from the server, and as www.data. So as we know that there's Python on the target, so let's make a shell a little better. So let's clear the screen, but we can't do that because the term environment variable has not been set. So export. This is not really necessary, but I like it as it just makes things more neat. And as the first thing usually I do on a target is sudo l. That's something that I have always done after gaining access to a target, because you might find something as good as this. So we can run, so it tells us that the user we have got access as may run the following commands on bash. Well, the commands we can run are all without having to provide a password and as the user script manager. So to be able to actually become script manager, I can do sudo u, and this is saying I'm going to run sudo as the user script manager, and the command I'm going to be running is pin bash, and it works, and now we are script manager. We can confirm that with who am I and ID. Again, clear. Now let's see, do we still get something with sudo l, and we get a prompt for password. Let's just get rid of that. Now I'll just do cd and nothing, and will take me to the home directory. Is there anything over here? No, there isn't. Let's see what all users over here. Cat, and that's a lot of information, but let's just filter it out a little bit. I only want the ones that have home. Well, there's another user on here, Arexel, who has a home directory. So do we right now as script manager. So, well, do we have access on his or her directory? Well, no, we do not. Let's run len enum or some lenps. Let me close this and locate lenps.sh. Well, I'll copy it from an older box to the current one, and here we have lenps. Let's run a Python server on 1337, and here wget 10 10 14 15 1337. Why can't I type? And we have downloaded it. This, I'm not sure this will happen with any of you, but it does tend to happen at times that as we download a file, we just start running it as lenps.sh, and it says permission denied and everything like so. Just chmod plus x and do this, and you can see that now we actually do have the x over here. So let me clear this and run it. This can take some time to finish, but just let it. So now let's go to the top of the script and start checking what all do we get. So lentpeas is actually a tool that is used by everyone and is also allowed in the OSCP. And this is something that as a pen tester you will also need to use a lot. So let's see what all do we find. The system architecture and some paths, the user VRS. Very often I just keep going through the output, and there have been boxes at times that you might not find stuff through lentpeas too, but you will always find some information or another that is really useful from lentpeas. Essentially what lentpeas does, it runs all the enumeration commands and everything in one go for you to view. So we should be able to find something. Well, and these look interesting. Unexpected and root. The root is the root directory of the system. We'll check these things out. Let's go for scripts first. So cd/ and let's do ls. Here we can see the scripts directory. Let's go. Let's clear the screen again. ls, and there's a test.py and test.txt. So let's cat text.txt first. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, it's test.txt. It is, well, all that there in it is testing 1 to 3 and an exclamation mark, and test.py has, well, is just opening a file test.txt which we just saw, and writing to it. W is writing, and writes testing 1 2 3 exclamation mark, and then closes the file. What other information can we find? Oh, sorry, let's clean it. And so test.py is owned by script manager, and test.txt is owned by root, and the date between the two is actually quite different. Let's see the system date, and as we can see over here, 1409 and 1409, and it seems that test.py is writing to test.txt and root is the one running test.py, probably via cron job or some scheduled task, and it is writing it quite frequently. And it just did it again. We can see that 1409 and 1410 over here. And as script manager, we do have write access on the file. So as it is a Python file, we can use the same exploit we used before, actually the reverse shell we used before, that is this one. So before we actually use it, let's edit it out over here. So I'll remove this part, type echo test.py. This is not necessary, but I always do it in Sublime or any other text editor, as I said before, because it just makes things much easier to debug. So let's change the port and 4444. So I'll add this to test.py and it did. So let's set up a listener. There needs to be a space. And as we have just put this inside test.py, we should wait for some cron job to run it, but at times it will run it, but will not spit an error out if there is one. So let's actually run it ourselves. Python .py, and we do get something, and we're again a script manager. At least this shows us that there is no dumb syntax error in our file. And let's wait for a while. And we got something back. So who am I? And I am root. So let's do Python C